Welcome back. This is Late Night with Sharif, and I am Sharif. And today we have a political guest, a guest that's in politics, and he is going for the office of Richland County Sheriff, and I'll let him introduce himself. You are?
Jim Walker.
Mr. Walker, yeah, big task ahead of himself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Walker.
Well, I am a resident right now of Richland County, Columbia, South Carolina. I am originally from Texas, from Dallas.
Dallas, Texas.
Went into the Navy when I was 17, did right close to 21 years of service.
Okay.
And
we appreciate your service.
Thank you, sir. And then from there, I went ahead on and then got out and went into law enforcement, where I actually started my law enforcement career in the Navy.
Okay.
All right. And then I came out and started my law enforcement career in civil service back in 1997.
Okay.
All right. I ran that from Somerville up to Columbia, worked at the State House, and then from there to Richland County Sheriff's Department, which I worked there from 2001 to 2015. All right, under the sheriff that's sitting now, and then I chose to stay here in South Carolina for retirement, to be here because it was better for me to be here. And when I did, I was single. Now I'm married with 3 children.
All right.
All right, so.
How old are your children?
I have a 19-year-old, which is in college. I have a 17-year-old who will graduate next year.
Right.
And then I have a 15-year-old that'll graduate in 26.
Okay. And your 19-year-old, he's in school with?
She is, yes.
She, I'm sorry.
That's fine. She's in doing medical because she wants to be sports medicine. So she's studying that and starting out online, doing online schooling.
All right.
So.
Cool. Man, so I take it you said you from Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
Cowboys fan?
Yes, absolutely.
Me too.
Born and bred. So
me too.
All right.
Mom was in love with. I was born in '77. Mom was in love with Tony Dorsett. So.
Yeah,
I had no choice but to be a Cowboys fan.
He was one of my fans. I was one of his biggest fans when he started out.
Right.
That's the year I graduated in '77.
Okay.
So
how was life in the military life?
I loved it. It was something that I feel like our young people should at least give it an experience.
Right.
They have all different branches. The Navy was for me, so I did that, and I knew when I went in at the age of 17 that I was going to stay for a career.
Okay.
And so I feel that it's something that, we can at least, as young people, learn from that, because if nothing more or nothing else, it gives us a position in life to have a trade once we come out and to move forward. It gives us a better idea of how life goes itself.
Okay. So I don't know if I'm saying this right, but so you in the Navy, you were in law enforcement in the Navy, or do they call it something different?
Well, no, that we are called master at arms in the Navy.
Okay.
I worked with them. My original job was a torpedoman.
Okay.
All right, so I dealt with electronics, explosives, and roundabout dealing with my weapons. But my collateral duty was law enforcement, and our master at arms are equivalent to MPs in the Army and the Marine Corps.
Okay.
All right, so, and got a chance to start that out, and that's how I started out my law enforcement career. Matter of fact, I started out with my law enforcement career just prior to Desert Shield and Desert Storm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right, so, and then from there, while I was down in Goose Creek, as a matter of fact.
All right, Charleston area.
Yes,
right? Okay.
I started out with the base police there, and then became outside of a reserve police officer in Somerville. And that's how I got my start in civil service.
Okay.
So.
And what kind of problems do you occur, like being military, like military police? Or...
Right. Well, pretty much the same as we do outside, except for it's just we handle law enforcement on our bases and on the property that belongs to the military itself. But the law enforcement is the same. No different. I mean, we have domestic problems. We have assault problems and fights and thefts and all kind of different things on the military base, just the same as they do out in town.
Okay.
So the only difference of it is that when we make an arrest, we make an arrest on a on a federal basis rather than on a civil basis.
Got you. So you get into law enforcement in 2001, was it?
For civil law enforcement, yes.
Civil law enforcement, okay. And you're working at Richland County Sheriff Department.
I was.
All right. Under the leadership of the current sheriff, Leon Lott.
Yes.
How was that working for Leon Lott?
It was interesting. It was working for someone that believed in what they did, just like anybody else. But there was a lot of to myself. There was a lot of contradictive type things that were in place. We had the opportunity to do our job, but in the same term, we also had a twist side of it as far as it goes as being, working in rather than community policing. From what I could see and understand what it is, we were policing our communities, not being in community policing as it's being said, because there's a big difference. And the difference is that on community policing, we're in there not just a few people being noticed and being known by the citizens, but all of us that works in our communities and patrol our communities ought to be known and should be known by our community members and by the people that are there in force, because that's who we're serving. And we're not just a short, not just a few on a particular team or a special team to go in and represent, the whole department, but we all represent that department. And that's what I found, and that's what I learned while I was there. Having the opportunity to still move through rank and retired out as a sergeant while I was there.
Oh, so you did move through the ranks
I did.
and everything. So you would say, even though you saw a lot of contradictive stuff, but you were able to, it wasn't a racist department, was it?
I can't say, I'll say it like this. Things weren't as equal as it's made out to be. I'll put it that way. Okay.
Right.
So rather than going in that perspective of saying that it was a racist department, I'll just say it was a department that had special settings for different people. Okay. And not all of us were be able to move in the same direction. And those of us that worked hard and were looking at planning to move in that direction, some didn't get that direction because it was put on that, as I'd say, as a favor on moving toward other directions, and other people.
Gotcha. So you move up the ranks, and in 2015, you decide to either leave the department or did you retire?
I retired.
You retired?
Law enforcement, yes.
Okay. So what did you do after law enforcement?
I went to work. Actually, I went to work for Lowe's, on a part-time basis. And that was just for something for me to do because I'd already retired from the military.
Twice, right.
So I went out. Now I'm retired from law enforcement, and it's just something for me to do on the spare side because I love to do woodworking. I love to work with my hands.
Right.
So because of that, and to keep me busy, the mind goes idle. When the mind is idle, things don't go right. People have a tendency to move in different directions. Myself, I like to stay busy and I like to learn. All right. So by that, from 2016 until March of 2017, I worked for Lowe's, and then becoming a disabled vet, 100%, I decided to go ahead and go into full retirement.
Okay.
All right. So, and during that time, I decided to be with my kids and allow myself to be with them because they were in marching bands and stuff, still in high school. So it gave me the opportunity to be with them. And then I got that tap on my shoulder and got that calling to come back into law enforcement.
Right.
It was I'll put it more on a biblical stage because it wasn't something that I had actually planned, but now that I am in it, I'm more than enthused to be doing what I'm doing.
Right. So just playing. Do you have like a party affiliation or?
I am. Yes, I do.
Okay.
All right. I'm on the Republican Party.
Okay.
All right. So on the GOP, and I'm there because I've been there since I was 17 years of age.
Okay.
Right? Since I was in high school, that's where I became.
Right.
All right. So to learn the process of the political parties back then was actually very intriguing to me because I wanted to know exactly how it ran.
Right.
And during that time, in my time, it was like President Ford was in office and stuff.
Right.
So looking at that, it taught me the difference of what the politics was at that point and the politics were back in, say, the early 50s and 40s and back in the 1800s and stuff of that nature. Because being a Republican in historical setting, we've been different. We've been Republicans and we've been Democrats. Okay. So that's what put me in that position.
Right, that's fair. So just kind of playing the Democratic side, they're gonna ask, why should we vote for you? Which I'm pretty sure Richland County, I haven't done a whole lot of processing on it, but I'm pretty sure that most Richland County is Democrat, right?
Yes.
So my thinking is, okay, so they're gonna ask, you retired in 2015.
Yes.
It is now 2024. That's about 9 years out of the game, out of law enforcement.
Okay.
How in those 9 years were you able to keep up with what was going on? Was it through the kids, or were you doing like community tasks, or how were you able to still be in tune with what's going on now? Because the world has changed since 2015.
Right. And that is by paying attention to the different statistics on following the news, especially with Richland County and the things that are happening in our county and in the city of Columbia. Keeping up with that, also going to school, and paying attention to, as we move, looking at the statistics of a crime, at our timetable, and so as far as it goes, is how the crimes are up and down.
Right.
All right. Also, I pay attention to the sheriff's interviews when he has his interviews, and listen, and then do my homework and do my research on the things that I'm looking for. Not just staying idle. That was even before I decided to start running for sheriff. Right. To keep me in tune with that, to keep me in tune with what was going on. All right. So, yes, and to actually more so, it's not so much as the kids as it is the young adults that we're really paying attention to as to the things that are happening, but paying more of attention to what's happening to our younger kids, all right, and the type of violence that's going on in our county. And by the more I saw, the more in tune that I became with it. Right. So, and that's how we went from there.
Right. So, I mean, we've been out for 9 years and everything, and you've been able to kind of look on the you've been looking from the outside, looking in. What do you say to those that feel Sheriff Lott has right now just has more hands-on experience than you have coming in, even though you decorated military, been working in law enforcement a long time. What about the people that say, well, it's been a while since he's been out. Like, how do we, what kind of comfort do you offer them that you can police this community?
Well, I can offer them the fact that I do, even though I've been out for the time that I've been out, the experience doesn't go away. Right. The knowledge stays there. He may have been in office for as long as he has, and he has hands-on, but that hands-on doesn't make it to where things have gotten better. Right. As a matter of fact, things have either been the same or been worse. Right. All right. And just from the questions that are asked, people are also making that form. All right, and making that statement. The thing of it is that for me, I put that into perspective of taking my experience and the fact that I believe myself being also a citizen of Richland County, that I have that perspective of where we are and where we are going. Right. And just because I'm on a political party doesn't put me in a different position than that. Take my experience of what I've had and what I've done, what I can do, and that's to offer that transparency and that availability to our citizens, and to make sure that we as a department are part of being our community, and building on making our community to be able to have our voice because that's what we don't have. Now, he's been in there for that long, but, I'm not going to really hit on that a lot because of the fact that as far as my being in this position and running for sheriff, it's not about him. It's not about me. It's about our community.
Okay.
And our community needs to feel safe. They need to feel like they're being protected. We need to have citizens help to put us back in the perspective of doing true community policing.
Okay.
And true community policing puts it down. That's where I feel the difference between myself and him. Even though he has that hands-on experience, I, being the sheriff, is looking at putting us back into that voice zone and having the opportunity to be able to give our opinion and tell what we're doing and what we're not doing.
Right.
Okay.
So, question.
Yes, sir.
How do you come about this? So, I've been voting a long time. Kind of dipped over to Lexington County for a little while, but I'm 47 years old. Mainly voted in Richland County.
Okay.
Been voting since 18. Grandmama wouldn't have it any other way. So 30 years I've been voting. He's been the sheriff this long or whatever. Nobody's ever been able to defeat him. Sometimes people don't even run against him. Sometimes I think the last time it wasn't even anybody else on the, two people were on there? Okay. I remember seeing before, maybe that was just a primary. Nobody just kind of went after him or whatever.
Yes, sir.
So you just sitting in your living room. What makes you say, I'm going to be sheriff of Richland County.
Well,
I'm going to take on this? Because out of all the politicians that are going to be on that on that docket, from all the way from the president down to the sheriff to the superintendent, nobody loses by the landslides that people lose to him by.
Right.
He garners what, 68, 70% of the vote every time he comes out.
Right.
So how do you attack that? Like how? What?
Okay. I'll say this. For being in that office for as long as he's had the opportunity to build people's belief, toward him. All right. And by building that belief, he's got his constituents believing and thinking that he is the individual that can do the job.
Right.
Well, okay, fine. If he's the individual that can do the job, and I'm guilty of it too as being a resident of Richland County, that we've put him in that office and believing that he can do the job, but the job hasn't changed, and what he's supposed to be doing hasn't changed and made us feel any safer.
Right.
Hasn't stopped our kids from being killed in the streets.
Right.
All right, and hasn't stopped the gun violence that's been in our neighborhoods and the crimes that have been there. All right, so to be sitting back in my home and then all of a sudden decide to be the sheriff,
Right.
I can say honestly that was God's play. It wasn't mine.
Right. Okay.
Right, and that was put me in position to run for this position because there's a plan of His to guide us in the direction that we need to go.
Right.
All right. So, and I believe that, but also I know and believe that I can make the change along with the citizens, not by ourselves, but with the citizens themselves to help to bring us back to where we need to be.
Right. Okay. So I take a ride through this community all day, every day. I've got my thoughts of what's going on. Whereas you ride through this community, through Richland County, what do you see? What does that look like out of your window, or if you're walking or running, or what does that look like?
To me, when I drive through Richland County, and no matter where I'm at, and especially in other neighborhoods that are not quite as set as this one, I see that there hasn't been a change. I see a liking of law enforcement that should be in our communities that we see a little bit of. Okay, I still see the downfall of our communities. All right, I still see where there is a high or a medium set of crime that's supposed to be taken care of, and it's not.
Right.
All right. I see where we as a people are less likely to be helpful, okay, because a lot of times we don't want to get involved. And that's not just black communities, that's all of our communities in Richland County. All right. So, but the whole concept of that is that when we're riding through, or when I'm riding through, like this neighborhood right here, it has appeared to have gone down since it was when I was working in it. Okay,
Yes.
we've lost businesses, and we've lost those businesses because the crime rate has not been taken care of, and it's still moving and flowing. And they don't want to get robbed, and they don't want they don't want people coming in and taking what they've worked hard for.
Right.
And that's what's happening. That's what we see, and that's what I see. Same thing inside of our neighborhoods, inside of our communities with our homes, not just the business areas, but our homes are being done the same way.
Right.
So that's what I see.
Well, I'm agree with you on that. I pretty much was raised on this street, and my grandma lived behind that library right there, and this area was considered, you know, a rich part of town.
Right.
So you had the mall right here. The mall is just horrible now. It really isn't a mall. I mean, nice businesses, it was Crystals right here at the corner, Rally's Burger. It was a place right here. Andy's Deli was here, and I know that guy retired, but it just appears that this street has gone down when it was once one of the better streets in Columbia.
Right.
How do we take a Park Lane or a Garner's Ferry Road and bring it back to what it once was?
And like you, I wasn't raised here, but I came to Columbia in 2002. 2000. All right. And during that time, the same companies that you were talking about there was here. I had the opportunity to see them. I had the opportunity to see them also leave, especially down on the Decker area down there.
Decker,
all the businesses leave and moving because. But to me, and for what I have planned in my platform, is that to rebuild our community to make it safe. By that, we need to do research on what is happening, not just here in our communities and in our cities, but in the cities around us and in other states to work with and see if we can build our protection and bring our communities back with getting us to work together as a whole, because without that, first we need to find out what we have, all right, and why is it the way that it is. And one of the reasons that it is the way that it is because we don't want to be in a position where we feel like we'll get hurt because we're trying to take care of our community. Right. And we don't have the law enforcement to take care of our community because we're not built up for it. I've been in Columbia since 2000, okay? So, and in that time that I've been here in Columbia, I have watched our department deplete its manpower instead of growing. Our county is growing expeditiously, okay? And while we're doing this and we're having this heavy growth, our law enforcement is not growing with our communities, which means in turn we don't have the protection and the safety that we need.
Right.
And that's what it takes for us to bring back the businesses, to make them feel like their businesses are going to thrive in Columbia. We need to have that protection for them, and they need to know that it's there.
Right.
All right. So that's.
Gotcha. All right. So I'm gonna give you maybe you were retired. You retired 2015.
Yes.
Like what? You remember what month it was?
December.
So you retired December. So, all right. July 2015. My nephew. Are you familiar with Lord Park, Grand Street, Fair Road, North Main area, right?
Yes.
So my nephew, his name is Najee Buggs. I don't know if you remember that name, but he was the first probably started off. I mean, it's probably been some other teenagers that have lost their life in Richland County, but it seems to right after 2015 just started this trend of 2 or 3 teenagers being killed every year. He was killed. It was a mistaken identity. the guy has admitted that he mistaken him for someone else. It was in the game. He was walking up the street from playing basketball. Had a red shirt on. Another nephew of mine was there, and it kind of like it was just mistaken identity. They was trying to kill my other nephew and hit a 14-year-old.
Right.
During that time, it was City of Columbia, but they reached out for help with Richland County. But one thing that stuck out with me about that, because I did speak at the press conference and was there for a lot of that stuff, because this went on 3 years before they found the killer, and by the time that they had found the killer, he had killed 3 other kids, 2 15-year-olds, and had shot another 18-year-old that didn't pass away. So he had killed 2 more kids and injured another one before they were able to match bullets. And I mean, he's got same person, same gun, all of this stuff, right? So my thing is this is now a trend in everything with kids every year being, and one thing that being killed, and one thing that stuck out with me at the press conference is I guess it's Chief Holbrook, and Leon Lott was standing there and he's done it also, but they seem to put Holbrook's hired, but Leon Lott runs on it, community policing. But when these things happen, they seem to put the blame on parents and guns being left in cars, that these people are breaking in cars, and guns are being taken, and the parents aren't doing what they need to do at home. And it just seems like he's never considered that, you're running community policing. Like, okay, where are the police in the community? So if you have a high crime area like Faro, Lord Park area at that time, I don't know what's going on over there now, but I'm pretty sure it's the same. But if you have a high crime area like that, why don't you have a police presence in that area? Is it not enough? And you just touched on a little bit of that. Is it not enough officers? But even if you didn't hire a whole lot of officers, you should still have enough officers to protect these communities. Is it just that he does not care about these communities? Do you feel that way, or do you feel like that it is the parents and that it is the gangs and it is, because it's always going to be gangs. It's nothing that you're going to be able to do about that. But that's a part of the job, is to
Right.
to combat the gangs and stuff like that. To put cars out there and put patrolmen out there that are walking around the community and then he even said, well, people won't. One of his reasons for my nephew, the crime not being solved in 3 years, was, the community won't talk. Well, the community won't talk to people that they don't know. You know what I mean? But if do you feel like these communities is just, I know he's not doing a good job of it. We can go ahead and agree on that. But what do you feel about, what is he making a mistake on? What is he not doing right as far as community policing?
Okay. I'm not going to put that in perspective of what he's not doing or how he goes about community policing.
Right.
What I will put in perspective is that our community policing should be done in the way of having our deputies in our communities, out
Right.
walking around, out being to the point where our citizens, they know who they are, know who they're dealing with. And it's been answered, the question that I've asked since I'm running for sheriff to the citizens is their view on community policing.
Right.
And my view is the same, is that we don't have enough deputies to be out on the road, all right, to be in our communities where they're supposed to be, but they should be,
Right.
and there should be. But in an area that's high in crime like that, we should have at least move over deputies in those areas for that to help do this.
Right.
Our citizens become more responsive to us when they know that we're there and we're going to be there. That's community policing. To get to know our deputies, know who they are, know them by name, can call them by name, so we build that trust and that belief in them.
Right.
All right. To blame it on the parents, no. I mean, it some of it can start at home, but it doesn't go through the parents, because kids are going to do what they're going to do.
They're going to do what they're going to do, right?
But in the same, what we as parents, because I'm a parent myself, so what we as parents should be doing is trying to enforce the fact that we let our kids know that we love them. Because one of the things that I used to get from kids in the streets back then is that they're there because they don't feel like they're loved and cared for the way they want to be at home. They feel like that other entity of being in gangs and stuff is giving them more than what they're getting there.
Right.
All right. But what we also need to do is we need to have a program or design a program to help our parents to understand and to help train them in handling situations such as that. Okay.
Right.
And to help to actually be able to teach our kids the value of life and the dangers and the consequences behind picking up a gun and pulling that trigger.
Right.
All right. But I believe that in that sense that we can develop our kids more and give them a better understanding of the true value of being not being a part of an organization that's not doing right by them and by their communities. Okay.
Right.
So that's where I'm at on that. But as far as it goes, is the community policing that the sheriff is doing now doesn't match the community policing as it's written and put and posted as it's supposed to be. Okay, because we're not being involved. We're there. They're moving through the communities, but to stop and get out and talk other than someone that's a part of the CAT team, that's just a special unit.
Right.
Right. The problem of it is we don't have any deputies that are on a regular basis that are in regular cars going through our neighborhoods and being there like they're supposed to.
Right.
So,
is there profiling in the, not just racially profiling, but just profiling, period? Is there profiling in the Richland County, the police department, sheriff's department?
well, that's a hard question to answer, okay? Because I can't say, and it's not to protect anybody. It's not to put anything off, but to actually say that whether there is or there isn't profiling, I'll say it like this. There are situations where people are treated different, okay? And they're treated different because it may not be so much as profiling as it may be more so as other deputies or police officers from Columbia City may be uncomfortable in who they're dealing with and what they're doing because they don't really know the culture that they're dealing with, okay? So by that, and there could be very well set up to where these individuals are moving because of the difference in people that they're dealing with, skin color, ethnic backgrounds, sexual orientations and stuff of that nature. Can there be, is there a possibility that there is? Sure. There's a possibility that there could be and that there is, but to definitely say that that's what they're doing, I won't make that statement.
Won't make that statement. Okay. So my question is, what do you do day one? What do you see that you got to change day one as the new sheriff of Richland County?
Day one?
Day one.
Have my meeting and find out how my department is being ran.
Right.
That's day one.
Okay.
All right. Day two, start making arrangements and start doing audits of the department to make sure that things are in perspective with finances and how we go about doing the proper thing with our deputies on pay-wise.
Right.
Okay, because that's one of the more important things of having these guys and girls that are working for this department to feel financially stable to take care of their families and themselves. Okay, to be looking at that and to be making arrangements with that, getting in contact with the people that need to be done. Okay.
Right.
Day 3 is just a matter of course of action, and start looking through policies and procedures. And this accounts for staff that's there, not just me. I'm not just going to be the only one that's running that department.
Right.
Okay. It would be foolish to think that I could run such a large organization by myself.
Right.
That's why we have the people that we have working for us.
Right. It's definitely huge.
Yes.
Huge task. So what we like to do, so I think we got through like a lot of the serious things. Is there anything that you want to add about your campaign, about what you want to do for Richland County before I get into, we're going to have what I do is I just throw out a name and you tell me how you feel about that. And then I also have maybe a multiple choice type thing with A or B, but or and this, stuff like that. So is there anything that you want to highlight that maybe I didn't ask as a journalist that
Right.
Okay,
so on my platform, one of the things that I have on my platform is that I would like to start out from the start, and first having the citizens to understand that they are us as the community, and being that the law enforcement division is the community, meaning that we're not just there just to police our communities. What we can't do our job, and I want them to understand that I believe that, the best course of action for all of us to take is that we collaborate as a community. And that's and when I say community, I mean Richland County as a whole, all right? And that's how we get things that we need as far as it goes, the help that we get from our communities, because that's our voice. Our communities are our voice. Without that voice and without them telling us that, what their dissatisfaction is, then we can't make our change to become a better entity and become a better organization in finding and helping that. One on my platform, it's also, I have in mind to set, and my plan and my vision is to look into different organizations that can help our community to grow. All right. It's been said to me that we the police. Now, this is what's been said to me. We the police. Our job is to go into the communities and do our job as the police. No, our job is to protect and serve our communities, and our job is to make sure that our communities feel safe and that they feel like they are being taken care of, and they don't have to worry about going out in the streets and worry about being shot at and stuff of that nature. That comes about from doing our due diligence to bring about having deputies in these communities where they're supposed to be, knowing who their citizens are when they talk to them, and they know them by name. All right. By doing that, we put in place that our citizens understand that they're customers of ours, and that those customers are being taken care of.
Right.
So does that answer your question?
Oh, yes, sir. So what do you do? So these people have been 20 years on the job, 15 years on the job. Some about ready to retire and everything, and just sticking around. The department should have already been retired. What do you do, to earn their respect after being after having Leon Lott Sheriff Lott as a boss for 28 years? How do you win them over?
Well, that's not a hard question, but it's a difficult question. Okay, there's going to be some that I'm not going to win over,
Right?
Because they are dedicated to that individual that's in that office.
They got to go.
But the deal up to that is this: everyone has a choice, all right, and that choice is, where's your loyalty lie, in your job or in an individual who you work for.
Right.
Okay, because if your loyalty is to the individual that you worked for, then you don't need to be in this job. Okay,
Right.
because your loyalty are to the people that you serve. All right. We've all been sworn in to do this job. We've all been sworn in to take care of our community and the people that's in our community. All right. So I say this to anyone I get elected when I get elected for sheriff, to anyone that holds that thought and that mind of being pre-loyal or post-loyal to this individual, then they need to move with him. Okay?
Right.
I'm not going to go in firing everybody under the sun, but what I will do is give each individual a choice. All right? And you have to make the choice which is more important.
Right.
That individual there or your family and your survival.
Right.
All right? And that's how it has to be because that's where it's put as far as it goes. We don't do micromanaging. We don't go there. And I want to rebuild those individuals' belief and trust in me by understanding how I run my department.
Right.
And I run my department as a leader should, by example. All right.
Right.
And by that means example and honesty and faith and truth. All right. I don't have a reason to lie to anybody about anything, and I definitely don't have a reason to pick on anyone.
Right.
And if they feel that way, then they don't need to be working for me.
Right.
All right. So that's how I would do that.
Where has your opponent done a good job of? Like, what can you take from him and add to it?
Well, what I could take from him to add to is, let's say, so-called the taking care of our deputies. All right. But in the perspective of taking care of them, truly take care of them, not just put it out because someone tells you no and you want a certain thing to happen. It has to be. I feel that, let's say, for example, let's take pay raises, for example. Okay, I know that those are done in a way that if they can't be done through the county council, that there's things that are put in place, ranks and stuff of that nature to give these pay raises. That's fine. That's all fine and good. But how about doing a thing called research and what makes things work to where the county council understands a budget. They understand paperwork. They understand how it works.
Right.
All right. They understand where the money needs to be going and how it needs to be going, why it's going to work that way. If you're going to put things in, just because, they say no, you're going to make it happen anyways.
Right.
Then what is that saying to our troops?
Right.
Yeah, true. You may seem like you're taking care of them, but it's really not in the long run.
Right.
All right, because if you do it correctly in the long run, then it lasts, it stays.
Right.
And not only that, one of our best friends should be the ones that carry our purse.
Right.
All right, because that's the way we're going to get the funds that we need to have done.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Good answer. So we'll get into our question then. Art, is Mr. Walker, is he a disciplinary sheriff, or is he gonna be like the players' coach sheriff? Like,
Okay, I can be either one. All right, depending on the situation. I'm not a disciplinarian, and I'm not the player's coach. I am an individual that's fair in what I do. And if the situation calls for being a disciplinarian, then I am.
okay.
If it calls for me being a player's coach, then I can also be that. Because a true leader actually stands by the personnel that they deal with to let them know that they're behind them at any one given time and with them.
Right.
Okay, that they will take care of them on the honest side of the house rather than just because, okay, I like you. That has nothing to do with it. What it has to do with is that you take each situation. One doesn't fit all, okay? And each situation requires a different characteristics of a true leader. And you have to be able to move into that and do that. If I'm completely and strictly a disciplinarian, then that means I'm doing micromanaging and I'm pulling things away and I'm trying to run this thing by myself.
Right.
All right. If I'm being a player's coach, then in more cases than many, that means I'm on everybody's side and I'm being their friend all the time.
Right.
But that's not the case, because those that are my friend, then they know how the job goes. Okay,
Right.
they can separate the two and the differences of.
Right.
So,
What do you think is what makes policing tougher, TV or music?
both.
Both.
Okay, because on the TV side, we have things that where kids believe that what they see, in some cases, they won't separate reality from fiction.
Right.
Okay, and they think that that's the way things go out on the street, and that's for real.
Right.
What they don't understand is that what they see on TV is fabricated and it's dramatized. All right, and we can't, you can't take that for real. Music, I say, because when that music hits out, especially from a very popular, let's say, rap group that's out there, when they start kicking around the words that they kick around, and those words are derogative, and they have a little bit of spice in them. I won't say hatred, I'll just say spice. All right, but that spice is pushing our kids into believing what they hear. All right, and the music in some cases can actually profile the law enforcement because of the stupid things that some people have done. And I'll say it that way because that's exactly what it is.
Right.
For those that they're trained, but they overlook their training and they do it their way. Okay? But the music that's put out there sometimes can create a hornet's nest for even those officers that are honest about their job and truly stand behind what they do. All right. So yeah, it could be both.
Okay. What do you feel about what's going on right now? It's like I'm just asking you this.
Okay.
What do you think about gangs? What do you
Well-
think? Do you think it's getting better? Do you think it's getting worse in Richland County? Do you think the gangs, some of them, a lot of them getting bad reps, that they may just be in the gang but are doing community work and doing things, some of the older members and stuff like that? Do you think gang has been highlighted like everything seems to be, oh, it's because of the gangs? Do you believe that, or do you think that, it's, that that's true, that everything is the
okay.
gangs in Richland County?
I think and believe that it's a well-rounded, highlighted situation. Meaning that our gangs, they're there, like you said earlier, they're going to always be here. They're not going anywhere. Gangs have been around since before, the turn in any century have come about because of where they come from.
Right.
Okay? They started out in all areas, New York, Chicago, even back in the 1500s, gangs were around.
Right.
Okay, so we as law enforcement, for example, yes, in some cases, in some senses, I believe they are getting a bad rap.
Right.
But a lot of the older gentlemen or older guys that have learned how to go about organizing this have put back into or trying to put back into the communities. They're also trying to put themselves in a position where they can talk to these young men.
Right.
Okay. What we need to do as law enforcement is we need to pull back, take a good look at who we're dealing with and the situation of sitting back and talking to these young men and women, of putting into, even at their stage, they know who should be. First of all, none of our kids should be dealing with being in the gangs and joining gangs, okay? But that's not something that we're gonna always be able to stop.
Right.
All right. It's just something attractive about it. Okay. I've been there. I've had the opportunity to be approached when I was a kid.
Right.
And I was around when, Crips and Pyrus were kicking back in California. All
Right.
So, but it's a matter of what we want. So I say this, let's, as a law enforcement entity, put us in a position where we can sit down and talk on a regular basis to find out what we can do as a collaborative group to help and to have these guys to help move us into the right direction, because our kids are our most valuable asset and they're one of our most valuable resources. So these young men and women that are running these gang leaders, old or young, they know who should be and who shouldn't be.
Right.
All right. So those kids that they know shouldn't be in there, let's try to plant that seed with them to help to keep that from happening. But there's going to be some that we're not going to be able to stop.
Right.
So, but as much as we want to, it's just not going to happen all the time.
Right.
But to be able to talk to these guys to let them know we're going to do our job. True.
Right.
Okay. We have to. It wouldn't be right if we didn't. But also, we're not looking to lock everybody up, but also too, we need that help from them to help us to guide our youth, because they have it. It's just that they're not being asked to share it. Right. And they actually have the plans and could very well be a part and help give back to the community rather than taking from the community.
Right.
All right. So,
you think metal detectors would help, even in these nicer schools outside of Richland one? Do you think the metal detectors would help the resource officers out better than them just trying to be on one person policing the whole high school or anything like that? You think metal detectors would be the solve that problem?
So I don't think it'll solve the problem, but I think it will help with the problem.
Right.
Okay. And as far as it goes, is school resource officers. One, I don't think that there should be just one school resource officer inside of a school anyways. Right. It's too big for that.
Right.
Okay. Should we use metal detectors? Sure. Especially with what was going on in today's society. Right. A lot of kids think that a knife or a gun is going to settle the score or take care of the problem that they have. Not understanding that it's just going to create even more problems. Okay. To keep our schools and our kids safe, I believe that having a metal detector at the doors coming in will enhance that. It will help a lot. It's not so much, to get people to understand. It's not because we want to control our kids or we want to control, about what they do, but it's to keep those kids safe that need to be kept safe. Okay, and to take them.
And you tell them to come in and get that light off us.
Right. And to take that in perspective about who we are. But yes, I think that metal detectors should be used in school. Right. And that's in all schools, not just Lower Richland or, Richland 2 schools or, Keenan High and all these. Right. I think they should be used in all schools. I mean,
right.
Prime example is, and I'm going to say this real quick, is that Westwood and Blythewood just had a situation where they pulled a gun out of both of these schools. Now they're supposed to be two of the top schools, right. But we're having problems everywhere. Right. So yes, I do agree with that.
No problem. Yeah, I mean that's a good answer. That's kind of what I wanted to hear. So what county is Dallas in?
It's in Dallas County.
So Dallas is Dallas County?
Yes.
So do you see more crime? Just take I know it's a bigger amount of people, a more populated community in Dallas County, but comparing that to Richland County, what kind of difference in crime do you see in between Texas and South Carolina? Right. Are we on par with the bigger
cities, bigger counties? Yeah. Yes, we are.
That's sad.
And
I think that's unfortunate.
It is. It really is. I mean, because with some of the larger counties around the country, per capita, we are matching some of them with what we have. Even though it's being said that we have a lower crime rate, that's not a standing. Right. We can say what we want to say, but when you look at it and people, are really stopping and paying attention to where our crime is per capita, it's not the lowest that we have, and it's not being taken care of the way it's supposed to be taken care of. Now, Dallas County, true, is a large county, and surprisingly, it's not their crime rate is high, but not as high as people would think it is. Okay,
Right.
I check on home too, so
Right, yeah. I
have
figured
to
you
go,
did, yeah.
because my overall plans and my vision is to research around the country on our crime statistics so that we can see how we go about lowering our crimes and what it's going to take. Okay, and we have to be willing to do that, because if we're not willing to do that, the first thing comes out of someone's mouth is, well, we're spending too much money. Well, we need to spend money to help to lower the crime rates.
Right.
All right, so
What do you think about Live PD?
interesting. It's a good program. I'll put it this way, okay? If it's used properly. Right now, I don't feel that it's being used properly because it's, to me, it's signaling out a particular a typical race of people, okay, a particular race of people, which is blacks, because most of what they're doing is putting these live PD in areas where it's predominantly, if not all, black citizens that live in these communities. Live PD is a good program if they put it to where, instead of just focusing on the community action team, focus on other deputies that are doing their job, handling domestic calls and handling robberies or whatever the case may be. Because when we stop and watch the program, when they break from Richland County and go to another part of the country, that's what they're looking at. They're watching and they're filming these people do a call on a domestic violence call or an assault call, or even a traffic stop where a deputy or an officer got into a high-speed chase or something.
Right.
But for some reason here, it's been chosen to make it more of a celebrity status rather than a police status.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, we agree on a lot of stuff. So we get it to like a little lighter side. So what do you think the Cowboys going to do this year?
well, I haven't seen the pre-games yet, so I can't tell you that.
We got a 49er in the house that came in the audience.
Look here, that's my my nemesis, and we get on, step up. I got some of my best friends are 49ers, so
Yeah.
we're good. All right.
It's my first time going to that stadium this past year. My buddy's a Jets fan, and we went up there, and it's just huge with the Texans right next to it. It's just the whole.
It is.
Just the whole thing there. And it was policed well because
Yes,
it was a lot.
it is. There's a lot
there
of
was a lot
people.
of little fights about to break out and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
People get serious about their games.
yeah, they do get serious about it. So I just got a couple more questions.
sir.
So you are running on the Republican Party,
Yes,
right?
I am.
So what do you feel about Donald Trump?
Well, I'm definitely not going to get into that one.
Okay.
But I will say this.
Right.
Everybody makes decisions that are not well liked. I'll put it that way. Okay. And that includes him, and that includes the vice president.
Right.
And what we as a people have to do is decide which one best fits us.
Right.
All right. And people have heard me say what my standing is, and my views are not on everybody else's views.
Right.
Okay? And the reason why my views are not on everybody else's views is because I'm a cop.
Right.
All right. My objective and my perspective of what life is and what we should be doing is different from everybody else. It has to be. Okay. So, and bringing that light in, that's why I won't make any particular comments about Trump.
Right.
So I can say this. I can say that we, as being in that position of law enforcement, that's why it should always be nonpartisan, because it doesn't put us in that, politics has no place in law enforcement, okay?
Right, okay.
It corrupts law enforcement, if anything else. That's what it does, because nobody's gonna ask you or anybody else in this room, if they get stopped, what is their political party? What is their political standing?
Right.
And so by that, we take and we have that put in where we are, okay?
Right.
What he does and what decisions he makes, I'll just say like this. No, I don't support all of them. That's all I'll say on that.
Right.
Okay.
That's understandable.
So,
So the big thing is, so he's just, you don't have to answer a question about him. He's attacking Kamala Harris for putting a lot of people in jail in California over marijuana use. So I think we're up to about 18 states or something like that that made marijuana may be legal. South Carolina not being one of them.
right.
But, even though it's not legal in South Carolina, dude, should have, and I'm a bondsman,
Okay.
and I make a lot of money off of,
Right.
marijuana charges. You know what I mean? They're about $150 a pop.
Right.
And they're all day, every day. But, should, the officers be locking up people for marijuana use, or should that just be like the $600 ticket that they got to pay anyway? Is there, what good is it to, be sent through the system on that? Anything is usually gets dropped to a magistrate level anyway.
Okay.
So what's the point of arresting somebody for it if it's just gonna have to pay the ticket anyway, and it is legal in not a quarter of the states
All right.
of the United States. So
Okay. So, in answer to your question, the problem that I'm gonna go this route. Okay.
right,
The answer to your question is that we have, if we don't do our job, then we will be put in a category of doing, picking and choosing who we do and who we don't do, or
Right.
arresting. If it's illegal and the law says that it's an arrestable offense depending on the amount, or it can be a ticketed offense depending on the amount, then that's something that we have to do.
right,
Okay, and that we should do because it keeps us honest and keeps us in our position and in our place of where we're supposed to be. Okay,
Right.
I understand that it's legal in a lot of other different places, but it's not legal here.
right,
All right, should it be reconsidered? On my standing, I say yes. Okay, on my standing, but it's not. So because of that, then I have to do my job. We have to do our job. We can't pick and choose as to whether we can or not based on somebody else's laws.
right,
All right. Should it be something that a bill should be wrote up and submitted to the Senate? Yes, I think it should be because it'll cut down on a lot of. It really will save a lot of lives in the sense of being illegal, the growing, the transporting, bringing it in and out of the country. It'll cut down on a lot of that. Also, it'll cut down on a lot of deaths of police officers
right,
because of it. Okay, because once it becomes legal, and they set their rules, then it can. I mean, because it being a natural product and a natural drug, it's something that people can throw in the ground and it's gonna grow anyway.
Right.
Okay, so it's unlike coke, crack, and all of that kind of stuff. So it has to come about the people
Right.
to bring it to where we're at. Will the Senate always deny it? Probably so.
Right.
All right, but we still have to. I think that the people, if they want it, they should fight for it. As long as it's illegal, then
You gotta do your job.
it's got to do it. We have to do our job.
Got you. So my thing is, so I worked for a dealership for 20 years, and we sponsored. I didn't personally, but being a part of the company, they sponsored Richland County Canines.
Okay.
So on one perspective of canines is the police and community, some part of the Richland County community that feels like is needed. On some parts of the community, especially the African American parts of the community,
Right.
that feel like they're there to, they're not needed. They're there to harm. They're not good for, they don't have to be there. And I know there's a few canines that were killed, and then some passed. And what's your feeling on? Because I take it back, when I was growing growing up in like a household that participated in Black History Month and everything like that, real deep. You know, I never seen the canines in a good light.
Okay,
And now, but it seems like the canine is like really deep in Richland County. Maybe more than others. I don't see the canines as much in Lexington County as I do in Richland County, and it's more drugs in Lexington County, and you know, just going by population,
Right,
just the average or
I got
whatever.
you.
So how do you how do you feel about the canines? You need more of them, you know, less, not needed at all.
That I say this. The canine deputy or canines in law enforcement, it's actually, if they're utilized properly, they're a good resource. They're a good asset to our department. All right, because the canine itself is one that won't stop or bulk because of a situation, or they to fear, let's say somebody with a gun. All right.
Right.
But it's also who's running the program and how they're running the program.
Right.
All right. I do know that for the sheriff that's sitting right now, that he has a high priority on canines. All right. Now, why he has that high priority, I couldn't tell you. All right.
Right.
I do believe in canines, but I believe in them being used the proper way, because they can track down a suspect when, we lose one and can't find one. Okay. But also, too, having the right individuals with the right mind handling these dogs is the best thing. Everybody should be scanned. That's something that we've gotten out of. We don't take people through mental evaluations, written or otherwise, before we hire them anymore. Okay,
Right.
especially if they're going to be handling a canine. That dog is a weapon. Okay, and can be utilized as one, because it can do things to people that they don't allow us to do. All right, but also too, I don't believe that they should be put in that position unless it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
It's not just something you just put out there just to put out there.
Right.
That's just like me pulling my gun on somebody and then, for just to be pulling it. All right, but there are some deputies out there that are running canines that do just that, and we need to take and be very, very discreet about who we have and who we choose to put out on these animals, because of their ability to do bodily harm to people. Right. So.
Well, I mean, that's just about it. I did have like one more question.
Okay.
So the big thing in the election was Donald Trump said that we're not.
No, go ahead.
Donald Trump said that Joe Biden was too old for the job, and so Joe Biden, the Democrats felt like Donald Trump was right. Joe Biden was too old for the job. Do you think Leon Lott is too old for the job? And maybe not by age, maybe by years, that it needs a fresh face?
Yes. I think that he's been there. I think he's overdid his service. Right. I think it's time for that change. No matter of fact, it's time for change to come. All right.
Right.
It's time to move forward so that we as a people can, get out of that spur that we have of glorifying an individual. All right. I think it's more on a term of being political than being official law enforcement.
Right.
All right. And because of that, yes, I think he's overstayed his welcome, honestly. I think it's time to move on. Age-wise, he may not be, but time-wise of being in office, it becomes a role now of, how can I better set myself up for this accolade, or how can I better set myself up for that accolade, or how can I get this award for this or that award for that. It's not about that. it should always be about the people, and I think that concept has been lost. All right, and so for that, I know that it's time for us as a community to change the guard.
Right.
Okay, so
Well, you definitely sound qualified. If this was an interview, I definitely would hire you.
and you know what? It's funny that you say that, because that's exactly what I'm asking the county to do.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm asking the people to do, is to hire me in that position. It's time to hire a new face and a new set of thoughts to come about, because when they put their vote out there, that's what they're doing, is they're hiring me for that position.
Right.
And that's like any other company that needs a new CEO. It's time to change and move forward. So it's just funny that you said that, because that's exactly what I say to people.
That's how I feel.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you for coming on the show, and
Appreciate you for having
if you
me.
want to say anything else, or if anybody in the audience had a question or anything like that, feel free.
All right. I'm open. I mean, the only other thing I would say, on this is that, when you go to the polls in November, vote for Jim Walker for sheriff. And you can go to my website at jimwalkerforsheriff.com and read about me and read my platform. And if you do vote, when you go to vote, don't pull straight party. Because if you pull straight party, you'll go straight down. Not only will you miss me, you'll also miss the people for our school boards and stuff like that, because they're nonpartisan. Okay. So that helps out.
Man, that's I'm glad you said that. That's perfect. That's a great way to end it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. I appreciate you,
man.
brother.
No
Thank
problem.
you.